Ask the Mayor, your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth, Bob Hedlund, questions about the town of Weymouth and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, here's Bob Hedlund.
Welcome to another edition of Ask the Mayor. As always, I am joined by the intrepid citizen advocate / inquisitor, Jim Melody. Thanks for being here again, Jim. And I know we're rotating as to how we open the show, but since I had the honors this week, I guess I want to thank the good folks from the Weymouth Garden Club, who, as you can see behind us, mainly behind you, have once again decorated the office here at Town Hall, the Mayor's office, to help us celebrate Christmas and provide the backdrop for some of the filming that was done for the annual holiday celebration that we run in conjunction with WETC to raise money for families in need. So I guess this is the Christmas / holiday edition of the Ask the Mayor show.
And it's an exciting time around town. One of the major reasons is we are allowed to offer the salutation of Merry Christmas to our fellow residents without the fear of backlash or political correctness, thanks to an edict offered by our mayor in a prior show.
No, it wasn't an edict. Basically, well, actually, I should explain that since you raised an issue. With the filming of the celebration, we have sponsors, obviously, who contribute to the fund. We offered them their opportunity, since they're paying for that opportunity, basically, to issue whatever salutation that they so chose. Most chose Merry Christmas. One chose Happy Holidays, and I think one or two a combination thereof. So it was up to them. I did notice, though, that the remote filming that was done by WET staff, most of them chose the salutation Happy Holidays. And I don't know if they were coached by WET staff and their biases came through or something, or their fear of treading beyond political correctness. I'm not sure, but
I think it's somewhat of a conditioned response at this time and place because of what's been occurring over the past couple decades, but things are changing. There's a new political climate, not only in town, but in the country, and I think some of these old-fashioned offerings are coming, everything old is new again.
Maybe. I'm not sure if that's true, but we erred on the side of caution here with our secular Christmas mascot. We chose a snowman rather than a creche or something, you know. So.
And we're hoping it doesn't melt whenever WETC does visit the mayor's office. The temperature goes up about
kind of looks
30
like
degrees.
It looks like a Jim Melody snowman.
I lose 7 pounds. Yes, that's a self-portrait that I put together.
So tell me, Jim, do we have any questions this week?
Well, again, we do want to make sure we offer the appropriate greeting in the season. So I will say, on behalf of myself solely, Merry Christmas to everybody in Weymouth, and all the best in this wonderful holiday season.
Can I get one more thing out of the way?
Yeah, please do.
Pop culture references we sometimes tread into.
Yes.
And today we heard the news that Greg Lake died. It was on my mind because...
Oh, is that why when I walked in you brought him up? Okay,
and,
geez, I'm sorry to hear that.
You know, he wasn't exactly at the pinnacle of rock stars in the 70s into the 80s, but he had a great Christmas song that you know. I'm not going to ask you to sing it.
Yeah.
But it is the Christmas season, and it's ironic that he would die, and he was the author of a really good pop Christmas song with great social meaning. I Believe in Father Christmas, I think was the name of it. But there's a slight connection between Greg Lake and this show. Why don't you explain it?
I don't know if I know directly what you're referring to, but I will tell folks as we go in the Wayback Machine prior to getting to our credits or to getting to our questions. The history of Bob and I being broadcast partners actually extends back to probably 15 years. When Bob was an occasional co-host on WRKO. I happened to work for that company at the time, and when I saw Robert in the hallways, one time he asked me to come in and speak to the Christmas music phenomenon because I'm connected to it courtesy of a song I wrote. And for years, him and I would do a holiday show where we would review Christmas music. It started at RKO, which we did on more than one occasion. And then, of course, Bob had his great show on ATD for a number of years. Where
I think you played Father Christmas.
There was always a time and place for that. So, you know, Christmas does bind us on some levels, and I don't know if that's what you're referring to specifically.
The question I asked.
Well, you're asking me about the direct connection to the lake situation.
No, I'll give it. Then Greg Lake played in Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Okay, yes, we know that.
And they had a song called the Nut Rocker or something. I can't remember the actual name of it, but it was a play on some classical music. And that was the song that WSBK, TV 38,
sure.
who you are always referencing on this show.
Yes, we are. It's our model.
And we have the honor of having Dana Hersey from WSBK TV, who used to intro and host the Ask the Manager show there, do our intro on this show. But they had the theme music. They used that as the theme music for the old Bruin shows, you know. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. So anyway, Greg Lake was the guy in that song.
Did he write that part of the melody? Do we know?
Well, they took a classical song and they kind of sped it up. Every kid growing up in Boston in the late 60s, 70s, I think into the 80s, knew that song, and you hear that song, you say, oh, that's the Bruins song. Anyway,
sure.
We better get to some questions,
well,
Jim.
I do want to say, sorry, of course, all these sidebars have more sidebars. I was trying to explain to my children not so long ago that at one point there was only 5 stations on television. The 3 networks and SBK and 56, and so everyone used to watch the Bruins, and everyone certainly knew that melody, as you referred to. Okay, listen, this first question is kind of a cool segue into the season, because someone actually sent a note regarding door-to-door salesmen, and of course, on Christmas Eve coming up soon, there will be someone who visits all the homes in Weymouth on a daily or nightly basis. But the question this person wants to know, and that's Phyllis Powers, wrote in, how can residences stop salesmen from knocking on their door? It is an unnecessary and dangerous practice. Can the town of Weymouth prohibit this? Now, it doesn't relate to Santa's visit, but what about the average person going around knocking on people's doors trying to sell them something?
Legally, no. We do have a...
You cannot prevent that from occurring.
No, we do have a ordinance that requires door-to-door salesmen to register with the police before they commence their activities. However, the homeowner has the right to post their property with no trespassing signs, and if clearly identified as signage, no trespassing, then that person would conceivably be trespassing. So that would be the defense, as opposed to the town outright banning, which we can't do, door-to-door salesmen. Obviously, Ms. Powers does not need a fuller brush or solar panels or whatever else.
Encyclopedia salespeople?
I get hit with the solar panel guys all the time. They're always around, yeah.
I would say, when I first read this question...
By the way, if none of those tactics work, get a big gnarly dog and put him in the front yard.
The first category of people I thought of when we saw this question on paper was actually the political class, because the only people that have been coming to my door, I would say historically, are folks who are running for office who are just trying to do their due diligence and put some legwork and shoe leather into their technique. So that's I don't know it to be a big problem in Weymouth, but apparently Phyllis has got a few folks knocking on her door. So Phyllis, put that sign up, but please take it down on December 24th if that's okay. Let's go moving on to, Bob, something a lot more serious is the Families Against Spectra, which is...
The last question was serious.
Yeah, well, that was serious, so certainly on some levels. This one, I think
if they took the time to write to us, it was serious to them,
It's important stuff. No two ways about it.
You're the citizen advocate. You should not be diminishing the priorities and concerns of residents. You should be advocating for those.
But I want to, pick my spots, and
okay. Right.
I think this applies to less people than the Spectra situation, which I think you'd agree applies to a few more folks in town than the door-to-door salesman dilemma that's occurring. Because someone wrote in, and it's an unnamed question, and can you ask what your administration intends to do about Calpine's land sale to Spectra Energy? Now, this is something I must have missed on the radar. So Calpine apparently sold Spectra some land. With the sale, according to this person, Calpine violated their TIF agreement with Weymouth, which I'm not sure what that acronym stands for, and then they need to be held legally and financially responsible for that decision by the town. Tell us a little bit about that.
So on the day we're taping this, yesterday was a busy day on all things Spectra and Calpine.
Oh boy.
The families.
Can you tell us real quick, what's the TIF?
Yeah. So some of the groups opposed to the gas compressor station had a rally on the bridge yesterday. They got some coverage in the local news. One of the things that arose was that the transaction occurred between Algonquin Gas, part of the consortium that makes up Spectra, and Calpine that operates the power plant. Spectra has purchased the north parcel on the other side of the Fall River Bridge for $13 million. Now, we expected that
Now, is that directly across the way from where the Calpine plant is? Is that, okay,
owned by Calpine.
On the Weymouth side?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a little piece out in the channel that actually is technically Quincy land, but we expected that to happen at some point. We didn't expect it to happen this quickly, given some of the delays. I'm guessing, this is purely speculation on my part, that there's some level of confidence that Spectra has that they'll receive their certificate. I don't think they would be buying the land for $13 million if they weren't confident that this was going to happen. I mean, that may be reading the tea leaves a little bit. They may know something we don't know. And we thought it wouldn't happen this quick given some of the delays that have occurred in the process. So people are concerned and have raised the issue correctly that that Calpine, by selling the parcel, may be in violation of the host community agreement and tax increment financing, the TIF, that was done by the last town meeting in town history in 1999, striking the deal, giving the tax break to then Scythe Energy, a predecessor to Calpine, to restart and rebuild the power plant at that time. So we've obviously, I instructed, and town solicitor Callinan's been obviously on top of this all along, as we know from watching this show and watching Mayor's Monthly Forum and reading the newspapers. Had him, obviously look at this, and outside counsel look at this, and we think that the possibility exists that they are in violation of the host community agreement, where there's maybe more than one provision, but at least one provision that talks about the company having to cooperate with us on the future use of the north parcel. Now, by selling it to a firm that wants to build something that we're opposed to, that's probably doesn't meet the definition of cooperation. The other thing that we're looking at, and we are preparing a lawsuit, which by the time this airs could be already filed in Norfolk Superior Court, on the transaction itself relating to the state subdivision laws, and that we feel they may not be in compliance with the state subdivision laws, or we feel they're not in compliance with the state subdivision laws, or we wouldn't be filing the suit. So those are the two actions. The first one, again, is a direct court action on the subdivision law issue, and then we're preparing a letter that will be going to Calpine indicating that we believe they're in violation of the agreement, and obviously there'll be some legal action that would follow that. So that's the short answer. Now, I know that some of the groups actually generating emails. Ironically, I think this is the only one we got, but I know they posted on social media urging people to contact the mayor's office to find out what we're doing about it. So by the time this airs, I think there's already some newspaper coverage about that, not only in the Patriot Ledger and Weymouth News, but also in the Boston Globe.
Oh boy.
So people, by the time they see this, will have probably already read that. But we're right on. I think it ran. Those stories ran in today's papers.
Okay, so obviously the town's.
Obviously, you haven't read today's papers yet.
I have not picked up today's paper just yet. A very busy morning, but it's good to hear that there's an ongoing battle regarding Spectra's intentions, and it sounds like it would have been okay for Calpine to sell that land as long as they didn't sell it to somebody who maybe have interest at the contrary to us. Is my first question. And second one is, $13 million sounds like an awful lot of dough for parcel in Weymouth. In your opinion, is that fair market value? Is that, did they overpay for that?
It's not assessed for that, I can tell you that.
Yeah, geez.
But it's valuable to. It's valuable to Spectra and Algonquin for this enterprise that they're trying to complete. This, obviously, for the gas.
Is it a necessary component? If they didn't have that land, could they facilitate or move forward with what they wanted to do?
Well, that's another issue that is interesting, because under the federal regulations and powers that they have to advance gas facilities, they have some very strong eminent domain powers to have taken that. And so Calpine was probably, assuming, in a difficult position because they could have, opposed it and had it taken through an eminent domain action, and it may have affected price or whatever. And the fact is that Calpine has, throughout the country, an arrangement with Algonquin and Spectra. They're a natural gas user, so they were obviously probably in a difficult position.
Yeah, boy, it's a rock in the hard place. So as always, I guess, as we say in the wonderful world of media, stay tuned for more developments, but
there will be more developments
continues
on that front, without a doubt.
Okay, well, congratulations on putting up your dukes on that
by the
one.
way, I think we talked about it in a Mayor's Monthly Forum, but when that agreement went through, it was the last agreement the town meeting in 1999 approved. It was one of the last measures that the old town meeting, before we went to the city form of government, approved. And the Fall River Watershed Association actually put forward a measure to amend the host community agreement that would have Weymouth take control of that land back in '99. And it was voted down by town meeting.
So we could have owned that parcel, arguably?
And the folks who were on the committee that negotiated the host community agreement with Van Scythe spoke against that. And, the plan itself back then, it just said, future parcel reserved, a parcel reserved for future development, future use. They didn't have a need for it to operate the power plant. I mean, that was used to store coal back in the day when they burned coal there. So, the Fall River Watershed, will give them a shout out. They had the foresight to put that forward. I actually spoke on the floor of town meeting in favor of that. Some people heckled me and actually booed me then. And they booed the author of the amendment at the time, the director of the Fall River Watershed Association, Jody Purdy, because they saw the power plant as a good thing and benefit to the town, and they didn't want anyone upsetting the apple cart.
It's interesting how time has a way of making good decisions seem bad. Yeah. Okay, well, listen. Speaking about the future of the town and land parcels in general. Sandra Peters wrote in. She has some questions regarding the town development in general, but in particular she's referring to bicycle safety. What's the long-term future, with the long-term future of Weymouth in mind? What are your thoughts about improving bicycle safety and promoting cycling in town? Do we have a vision and strategy or some sort of particular plan as it relates to the bikers out there? And where are the cycling accommodations on the Emory grant proposals, if that is relevant in your opinion?
So a general question about cycling and specifically for Emory?
Exactly.
It's a good question about Emory. The plan that was approved by the council this week and the work that we're going to do and hopefully access the state park grant. We have a plan, and we've talked about that on a previous show, and I know that WETC covered the community meeting. Maybe they can rerun that since we're getting close to now that we've got the funding in place.
But so that's official? There's actually a chunk of dough that's been appropriated to...
Yes. So the Emory Estate issue that I inherited that, we haven't quite figured out what to do up there.
So
we have a plan now, and it goes forward with or without the house. This plan accommodates the house remaining or the house going away.
The literal estate?
Yeah.
Oh, there was talk about leveling that?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, no kidding.
Yeah. That's to be determined over the next 4 months or so.
Oh, so that decision hasn't been made yet?
But this park grant provides some other facilities, bathrooms, walking trails in the woods, paved walking trails, things like that. So, general, you'll be able to go up there and use the trail with your bike. But more importantly than that, we are receiving a Complete Streets grant from the state, and what that does is factors in walkability, bicycle access in all road projects moving forward, and allows us to do upgrades throughout the town for those issues, to address those issues. And, the planning department's done great work on this. We'll be ahead of our neighbors and other communities in terms of adopting 21st century practices for pedestrians and bicycles moving forward with this grant. So the things that she talks about, you'll see hugely addressed in this town. And don't forget, huge amount, I can't remember how many linear miles of bike trails that you'll see at Southfield, Union Point, as part of that development, which, we had a hand in, the town had a hand in approving that plan. So there'll be a lot of bicycle access throughout the state and safety improvements for bicyclists.
That was an ESP moment between you and I. I recently drove the extension, the Union Point extension that was just opened, less than a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes.
And if you take the time to drive that, not only does it look like $1 zillion, whatever it cost, $15 million, I think it was.
Patriot Parkway.
Is that what they're calling it? And there's a dedicated bike lane on both sides of that road. I happened to notice when driving down. I thought that was cool. So it looks like it's top of mind with folks as they look to, rezone or.
So I think Ms. Peters will be happy with some of the improvements that she sees that talk about, and address bicycle safety and access.
Okay.
And by the way, when I hired our town planner, that was one of the things he talked about, which I was excited to hear him in an unprompted fashion, as someone who used to ride a bike before I was injured.
Trying to create more bike lanes. I know it's got to be difficult. All the roads seem tight as it is right now. So lots of work and planning that seems like is going into it, and then we're seeing some positive developments. Zoning seems to be a theme for our Christmas show and Kristen Cedarholm writes in, since you are the former senator for the South Shore area, I know you're very familiar with the surrounding towns of Weymouth. My question is about Weymouth zoning. Can anything be done, and how quickly, about what myself and many other long-term residents feel about the overdevelopment of our town? The more I drive around town, the more I see family properties turning into multi-unit condos. It affects everything at the end of the day. It's kind of a long question, but the question I think I've spoken to this before. This person closed out by saying, I mentioned the surrounding towns because many of our neighbors have been diligent on the overdevelopment and overuse of what little land is left. But I know I asked not so long ago, is there a master plan as far as how much development can this town accommodate at the end of the day? Is there a top,
well, we have a master plan. It's called our zoning map, our zoning plan. And there were hard decisions, I think, personally speaking, in this town made in the 60s and 70s that allowed, they didn't go after industrial parks. They didn't go after, single-family residential on some of the old industrial sites when some of the old shoe factories went away and old farms went away. They went for density in some places. You've got some streets where you've got just what he talks about next to single-family homes. Now, I can't correct the mistakes of the past that way and go in and tear down a building, but one of the things we've done with our new planning department director, and since I came into office, is look at our zoning issues, and we have submitted the first of a series of zoning changes to the council. They have referred that to committee, and we expect some action on that soon. And that addresses residential zoning matters. We'll be getting rid of pigtail lots, things like that. And quite frankly, when that's done, now again, this is moving forward. It doesn't address things that have already occurred. But if you look at Hingham's zoning, because he talks about other towns in his question, we're going to have more restrictive single-family home zoning requirements than Hingham.
Wow.
And I'm not sure that that's completely the direction we want to go, because you got to worry about affordability when you're talking lot sizes too. So people complain all the time. They don't like developments when developments come into their neighborhood, but moving forward, you're going to have nothing to complain about because we're going to have more restrictive zoning for single-family residents. Now, is there a place in town that's appropriate for density? I do believe that. And I think that's what the key, for instance, to the landing development is. The council wisely approved an overlay district years ago, 6, 7 years ago, and that has spurred some tremendous development ideas that are coming in here every day. We saw a plan from some folks yesterday that is just incredibly cutting-edge, 21st century stuff. They want to invest in the land. They want to take decrepit properties in the landing and turn them into a mixed-use commercial residential that's going to make that neighborhood vibrant. So there's a place for density, and we want to protect the neighborhoods. That's the goal of some of these zoning changes we're putting forward. And the next round of zoning changes we put forward deal with sections of Bridge Street in North Weymouth that we hope will spur some redevelopment. You might see, change in use from, say, the 3A motel to something that's a little more beneficial to the community. So that's the goal with the zoning changes that we're putting forward. Great question by Mr. Cedarholm.
As a quick follow-up to that, I know the landing obviously seems.
Oh, by the way, I think what does he say about surrounding communities?
I think he was just trying to make the point that we seem to be more cluttered than others. But
well, he ought to go visit Quincy. You want to see density. And I lived a brief time in Quincy, and I went down my old street recently, and where single-family homes once stood are ugly, 6-unit, ugly developments. And at least what we're doing here, we're implementing some peer review standards when a developer comes in with multifamily stuff. So we're changing the way things have been done here significantly.
Relative to the landing area, again, because it seems to be cut right down the middle between a Braintree Weymouth split, the laws and bylaws in Braintree much different than Weymouth? Are they very similar? Some of these parcels must probably cross over both.
Great question. When prior to the state getting prior to Braintree and Weymouth getting that PWED grant from the state back in 2010, both communities worked with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, who initiated a study to look at the landing. Because clearly, if you went back to 2009, looked at the landing, other than traffic, you had tumbleweeds going down there in the businesses on both sides. Yeah. Vacant storefronts up and down the road. Yeah. And they came out with a vision after much study, And that vision that the MAPC came out with was what spurred Weymouth and Braintree to change the zoning in the Landing to an overlay district. They wanted to have the two town zoning mirror each other. They never got together on that. They're close, but they're not identical.
Okay.
Braintree has a lower parking ratio requirement than Weymouth. There might be some height, differentials, but basically you can go to 4 stories with a special permit. In Weymouth, you can get to 4 stories on the Braintree side, that kind of a thing. And the idea was to bring in and basically create a new village center there, and hope that the residential units that would be take shape there would attract folks who want to use the commuter rail, transit-oriented development type places, and that would spur the need for commercial space on the first floor, which, as we see these proposals come in, and the one that's already underway in Braintree, that's what's happening. It's as if that MAPC vision has taken hold.
Wow.
So it's exciting, and I'm excited because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but a couple of proposals that have come in here for development on the Weymouth side blow away what's being done on the Braintree side. So when all is said and done, and some person wants to rent, and they're mostly 1 bedrooms, so some hip young guy with a lot of disposable income that uses the train.
Our 2 cameramen?
Yeah, they're going to look at the options and they're going to say, "Wow, that development, those developments on the Weymouth side, are much more attractive than the Braintree side. I'm going over here." That's the hope. Although we hope that they're all full and vibrant, and
I've made this comment pretty regularly since we've been doing this show, just from the anecdotal evidence file, driving around, the visual changes that you see, whether it's Columbian Square or Jackson Square or the Landing, they're impressive. I mean, these are the type of things that people, they want to connect to.
If these developments take hold, Jim, the most dramatic change that you'll see in the town in our lifetime will be probably in the Landing.
Wow.
I mean, the proposal I saw yesterday, it's cutting edge, everything from green roofs, to new ideas on how to, how the storefront should look and things like that. So.
And is there a cap? Is that 4-story that you referred to? Is that the cap in Weymouth, and no building is supposed to be taller than 40 feet? Is that just the hospital?
It's different in. It's different in. It's different in Union Point.
Okay.
But I couldn't. It varies from time to time. But generally, there's a height limit, which I forgot the height.
Yeah, now that you brought it up, I don't recall seeing a building much taller than that. Hey, listen, we want to remind everybody to please keep the questions coming our way at askmayorbob@gmail.com. Some folks are referencing they're accessing us through Facebook as well, but we're grateful for everybody's inquiries. They're all important. They all have equal meaning to the mayor and I, and again, we're grateful for everybody's reaching out. Hey, we're in the process of wrapping up our Christmas show, so I've got quick question for you because it relates to our first show since we've had the presidential election.
We're almost out of time. I wanted to save this one so we can elaborate on it. I can read it from here.
Well, then
it's the shortest question. It's the shortest question we've ever gotten.
Well, very quickly, Vincent from Weymouth wanted to know: did you think Trump would win? Because he did.
No, I didn't. Did you?
No, I don't think anybody did.
I was very surprised that
we could have gotten rich on that one. But times have changed, and it surprised a lot of folks. And I think everybody, there was
watching the results come in. When I saw Virginia come in, I said, 7,000 votes. They were going to pull it out for this. I mean, they're going to pull it out for Hillary. Without a doubt, and then Wisconsin comes in, and I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, it came around quickly. Anybody who saw Dave Chappelle hosted Saturday Night Live the following Saturday, and I think he summed it up best by saying, listen, it might not be what everybody wanted, but let's give him a chance. Let's get behind him, give him a chance. He owes us some respect, and we owe him some respect moving forward. And I think everybody should be optimistic.
I saw Dennis Miller put it good when he talked about Obama winning, and he watched Obama give a speech, and there were young African American kids crying, and the inspiration that they got from that. And Miller said he was touched by it, and let's give this guy a chance. And he said he held his fire for 6 months.
Wow.
So we can give Trump 6 months, right? Let's see.
Well, listen, we look like we're concluding our Christmas show. It's our first Christmas show. It's the first Christmas under the mayor's tenure. And once again, we want to make sure we say thanks to all our friends at WETC, everybody who tunes in, and please keep the questions coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy New Year. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. And Merry Christmas.
Have a holly, and stay tuned for Hogan's Heroes. Have a holly jolly Christmas.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.